This happened a little over a year ago. Me and my girlfriend were driving back pretty late after visiting one of her relatives. I think it was around 11 or maybe a bit past that, and the road was mostly empty, barely any cars around. At some point I started noticing the car feeling a bit off, like it was slightly pulling to one side, not too extreme but enough for me to notice. So I slowed down and pulled over just to check. And yeah, the front tire was completely flat. I remember just standing there for a second because I already knew I didn't have a spare. I had used it months before and never replaced it, which I know was dumb. So we're just there on the side of the road. It's dark, trees around, a few houses but far apart, and we're trying to call roadside assistance, but the signal was really bad. Calls weren't even going through properly. My girlfriend was already stressed, saying we should just stay there and wait, but it felt like we could be stuck there for hours. After maybe 10-15 minutes, a pickup truck comes up behind us, slows down, then pulls over. A guy gets out, probably late 30s, normal looking. Nothing really stood out about him. He asks if we need help, and I explain the tire situation, and he says he lives nearby and has tools and maybe even a spare we could use. My girlfriend quietly says we should just stay, like she didn't even want to consider it. But in the moment, it felt like the easiest solution. The guy suggests we follow him to his place instead of fixing it there, which honestly made sense at the time. And I kept telling her it's just a couple minutes. We'll fix it and leave. She didn't look convinced but eventually agreed. So we got back in the car and followed his truck slowly because of the flat. And after a minute or two, we turned onto a smaller road with scattered houses. His place looked normal, lights on, nothing unusual, which made me feel a bit better. He told us to pull into the driveway and went to grab tools from the garage. We stood near the car waiting, my girlfriend staying close and saying she still didn't feel right about it, more serious now, but I was still brushing it off. He came back with a jack and started working on the tire, and he genuinely seemed like he knew what he was doing, so I didn't question it. While he was working, another car pulled into the driveway and two younger guys got out, maybe mid-20s. They glanced at us, then at him, and walked inside without saying anything. That's when something started to feel off, not panic, just uncomfortable. One of them came back out after a minute and just stood near the door watching, not talking, not helping. Everything got quiet in a way that felt heavy. My girlfriend leaned in and said we should leave now. This time I didn't argue. But before I could even properly respond, the guy stood up and kind of dusted his hands off like he was done, and said the tire couldn't be properly fixed tonight anyway. He said he didn't have a usable spare either, and that the best he could do was probably get one tomorrow morning from a nearby shop. Then he added casually that it was getting late, and if we wanted we could just stay there for the night and leave in the morning when everything was sorted. That's when I fully agreed with my girlfriend without even saying much. I told him we'd just call someone instead, trying to keep it polite. For a second there was just silence, like he was thinking. Then he just nodded and said, "All right." Nothing else. He lowered the car back down, stepped back, and didn't say anything more. We got in the car quickly. This time it wasn't slow hesitation anymore. I just started revering out of the driveway while my girlfriend was already on her phone trying to get roadside assistance again. As we pulled out onto the road, I checked the mirror and saw all three of them just standing there near the house, not moving, just watching us leave. No wave, no reaction, nothing. We drove for a while with the flat still holding enough air to limp forward, and eventually reached a gas station that was still open. From there, we finally got proper help and sorted everything out. Nothing actually happened. Nothing was forced or dangerous in the end, but the whole situation just didn't sit right with me after. And the part that stayed in my head the most is how easily I convinced her to go along with it at first, even though she clearly didn't feel comfortable from the very beginning. This happened over 3 years ago. Me and my wife had just gone on a short honeymoon trip to a coastal city. Nothing fancy, just a few days away to relax after the wedding. We had planned most of it normally, like beach time, food spots, and just driving around whenever we felt like it. On the second or third day, we met a guy at the hotel lobby named Michael who was staying there as well. He was a bit older than us and seemed friendly. He mentioned he knew a really good quiet beach spot outside the main area that tourists usually don't go to, and said it's much better than the crowded ones near the city. We were just talking casually at first and didn't think much of it. Later, when we were getting ready to go out, he was already around the parking area, and again mentioned he was heading that way for a short drive, and said we could just follow since it was basically the same direction. So we got into our car and started driving behind him. At first it was normal roads near the city, traffic, small shops. Nothing unusual. My wife was just looking out the window, and I remember saying it might be nice to see something quieter for once. After a while, he turned off the main coastal road into a quieter stretch with less cars and more open land on the sides. And somewhere around there my wife already said she wasn't really sure about going this far behind someone we barely knew. Like it felt okay at first, but now it was getting more isolated, and we didn't even know exactly where we were heading. I remember just saying we'll see how it looks and kept driving. The roads kept getting narrower and more empty until there weren't really proper buildings around anymore, just open patches and rough roads. Eventually, we reached a long open coastal area with scattered structures and parked vehicles, and he slowed down and waved for us to follow him in. My wife immediately said it doesn't feel right, and that we shouldn't be following someone this far out of the city when we don't even know the place properly. But I still kept going a bit because he had already pulled in, and it felt awkward to just stop there and turn back. When we stopped, he got out and said this was it, and started walking ahead like we were supposed to come with him. The place didn't really look like anything maintained, dusty ground, random debris, nothing like a proper beach spot. My wife stayed near the car and said again we should just go back, and at that point I told him we were going to leave, but he didn't really take it lightly. He kept saying it's just a bit further in, and we had already come all the way, so we should at least see it properly, like insisting a bit more while waiting for us to follow. But my wife was already firm that we were not going further, and I also started feeling it wasn't worth it, so we both just got back in the car. And while turning around, I remember looking back once, and he was still standing there watching like he expected us to change our mind. And on the drive back, there wasn't much said, just silence for a while. And after a bit, my wife said she shouldn't have agreed to follow someone that far out in the first place when we didn't even really know him. And I remember just thinking the same thing while driving back through the empty road.